after my favorite song of Dad's, and I'm all worked up. We're here today to celebrate Dad's music, but I just have a few things I wanted to share about his life and things I've learned from him, that if he weren't a musician, he would have found a way to say all this himself. First and foremost, though, before I say anything, and don't worry, it's not the whole notebook that I wrote. I have to first thank all of you for being here. Thank you so much. Please, thank you so much for being here, for knowing and loving our dad. Thank you to everyone who came to his funeral in June, and last year his birthday, which I'm so grateful for, that he wanted to have a big birthday for his big 70th, and it was so wonderful. So everyone that came to that, thank you so much too. I'm so glad he got to experience that. Deepest thank you to Greta, my dear friend Greta. In June, I thought I had the energy and the mental capacity to handle helping with this, and it turns out not at all. And she has totally helped out with everything. So thank you, Greta, for everything you put into this to help wrangle this together for us, as well as David Mosier as well. Thank you, David. Jim Horton, who made the songbooks with all of his lyrics. Jim, thank you so much for those songbooks. That's such a wonderful keepsake. And there's a Bandcamp page online that has all of Dad's original songs he put together, just a combination of all the songs over the years that you can check out with that songbook. Eileen Rower, I don't know if she's still here. Okay, yeah. Eileen was so helpful in June. She helped put the slideshow together of all of our pictures. She helped Mom. She cooked for us. And not to mention all the years with Riverfolk that she was so amazing with. So if you see her, give her a big hug. She's amazing. As well as her boys, you guys. I'm so glad you guys are here. I'm so, so glad. And the orchestra was wonderful, and everything's just been beyond amazing today. Dennis Kittle helped with the lighting and with helping set up all the stuff. Sybil Colin, Margie Bielecki, Grace Bielecki has been helping so much. Jen, thank you guys so much for everything. Rick, as well as Rick. Thank you, Rick. We wouldn't be able to do this without you. And all of you and all of our musician friends for putting this together. And Mom. There aren't enough words to express my gratitude to you for being Dad's true love, his partner in life, his best friend and companion. Your love and marriage have been the greatest example to me, to us. You let Dad be Dad, even when you wanted him to do something different. And you tried. And Dad was going to be Dad. And we were all going to be okay with that, because we knew that both of you are the smartest people we know, and you both have wonderful solutions to everything. As much as you fought it out to decide whose was best, you worked it out. And he loved you for you. 100%, always. Some of you may or may not know how Dad ended up in Manchester with Mom. But he grew up in Grosse Pointe, as we know, a very kind of unique upbringing with two sisters, one of whom is here, Mitzi. I believe, and two wonderful parents who had to work hard to keep up with the mid-century post-World War II life. And even though it was Grand Rapids or even though it was Grosse Pointe, they still had, quite a childhood. He had a best friend as a teen whose father was a music promoter and would take Dad and his buddy to all these shows as a teenager. He got to see Cream at a young age, The Faces. He got to see David Bowie as Ziggy Stardust and had no idea what was going on. And And he got to stand backstage watching all of this music. During his first year of college, that good friend of his was killed suddenly, and it haunted him his whole life, and it affected him deeply. He dropped out of school. He left his parents with a guitar on his back. He hitchhiked across America to the valley of the Grand Canyon, all around America. He quit smoking, believe it or not, and he returned to Michigan, went back to Western to study music and school administration, and worked his own vinyl top car installation business, putting himself through college. Yeah, there's a really great drawing of his ad that his friend drew of him and his car tops. It's out there somewhere. I wish we had it. It's pretty amazing. But he worked hard, and he put his way through school, and then he met Mom, a brilliant violist whose whole family played music. And when he met her bass player father and saw him head out to a gig after dinner one night, he knew that the life that he might want to live was possible. Teach, play music, have a wife and family. And then came the topper, finding this community in Manchester. So we all know the Raisin Pickers, but to me and Jackie, they were our soundtrack to our childhood. No cable TV or internet meant that they were our portal to music. And folk, old-time bluegrass, and Motown, though only a little confusing because I didn't know who Smokey Robinson was, and I thought my dad had written Tracks of My Tears. As well as I didn't know who Billie Holiday was. I thought Mom had written What a Little Moonlight Can Do. So a little confused, but I finally figured it out. But I loved it. I loved my childhood. Going from festival to festival, camps, running around campsites while the Raisin Pickers harmonies would just fly through the air. I remember running through the crowd and seeing this big man with a big naked lady tattooed on his arm, and he was shouting out all of their song titles. Like he knew all of their songs. Thumbelina! And it was like the heyday of the Raisin Pickers' career, and that's when I was like, oh, my parents are famous. It was this little festival in Indiana. But I loved it, their harmonies and all of their jokes flying through the air. And overhearing their hilarious band rehearsals as they worked out lyrics and arrangements. This was the process. Dad writes the song, plays it for the band. They spend 3 weeks pulling it apart and nitpicking it, turning it into a whole other song. And then they got a new song. Negotiation, passion, creativity, humor, and levity, self-expression, teamwork. I learned all of these things while tagging along, singing along. As I grew up, I saw how hard he worked. As a teacher at Napoleon Schools, where he'd put on these amazing programs every Christmas and spring, with a whole elementary school with like 500 little children, and somehow he had the command of the room, and he single-handedly led them in these wonderful productions that they would all sing their little hearts out, and they loved him, and they followed him, and they listened, and they learned. And I was always impressed by what he could pull off. The dawn of the internet and his desire to research his family tree led him to Louisiana, where he discovered that his Detroit ancestors had moved to New Orleans and established a multi-generational connection between the two cities where French-speaking Belgian businessmen could work and thrive. On his first visit to Louisiana, he attended the Brobridge Crawfish Festival, a weekend-long music and arts fest in a small town just like Manchester with a little river that runs through it. And boom, he was inspired. He realized he could do this. He got to work on creating river folk. Carr Park was the perfect setting to bring music from all over the country and the world to this little town. And I still believe that those were some of the best years this town has seen. People got involved. They got to know each other. They got to hear music and bands they might never have heard otherwise. And those years affected me greatly. Watching Susan Werner belt out her gospel songs to a crowd of a few thousand, at sunset, dancing to the Red Stick Ramblers, and Bill Kirchen, Seth Bernard, Billy Jonas, Songkwa with Kofi Amiao, with whom he connected with and later went to Ghana with to work at the Pan-African Youth Orchestra. The music, dances, community gatherings, that's what it was all about for him. He worked tirelessly, never for himself, and always for others. Dad was a facilitator. Once he saw the spark of an opportunity for anyone, he went for it to help others achieve what they wanted to achieve. He did this with so many of us, me, my sister, many of my friends, Matt Calloway, John Watson, Keegan Marinock, Caden McCreevy, so many of us, and all of his students, and anyone that recorded with him. He selflessly gave hours and hours and hours in that basement. We'd be like, is Dad home? We don't know. We haven't seen him. And then he'd come up after, about 10 o'clock, and he'd enter the world again. For me, he made dreams come true that I didn't even know I had or could be possible. My last album wouldn't have happened if not for him. Even Drew Howard playing on my record, I loved Drew's playing, and he was on every record I knew and loved growing up. Jen Sigget's and Seth Bernard's and Steel's Heal the World and everyone's. And when Dad said, there could be Steel on this song, we could get Drew Howard, I thought, there's no way. Drew doesn't even know me. And he made it happen. With his good friend Joe Hall down south, he revived and sustained Joe's career. Joe was a hardworking man, and the music business is tough for any genre, for anyone, and Dad knew that he could help, and he loved Joe's music, and he loved Joe, and they were such good friends. And he really, really did a lot with Joe. He was a producer, and he got more done in the first hour of his day than I can get done in a week. He made things happen, and all the way up until this May, he was still working on gigs and documentaries, connecting with people, and I think that fueled his life, just connecting with everyone. This past year, while going through radiation and infusion therapy and dealing with all the side effects and complications, he organized Joe's CD release and documentary premiere. It's going to happen in September, and in February we had the CD release for Joe, after Joe sadly passed away in November. He was a pallbearer at Joe's funeral, even though he was already doing radiation and was in a lot of pain, but he wouldn't have missed it for anything. He helped take care of Joe's instruments and all of his sound gear to help his wife and his son, and he did what should be done for those he cared for. He was a booster-upper. He'd get you started and help you along, but you always knew you still had to do your work. He helped my sister and I start teaching lessons in our teens, teaching out of his music room at Napoleon School after school because he knew there were kids and he had 2 daughters who could teach them. He believed in me as a teacher. He supported me always, met many of my students and their parents over the years, and loved chatting them up on my front porch while their kids were in lessons. Through him, they've told me they understood the wonderful gift they were giving their children, the chance to learn music, and the many, many joys and benefits it can give back to us. He supported me being a musician, encouraged me and challenged me always. He knew better than anyone I've ever known that music and art are the eternal teachers. There is always more to learn, another song to write, another instrument to try and master, another style to learn. He was never bored. He could always think of something to work on without ever any ego or expectations, just a pure student of music, of this world, of this life. There's one more rough draft page I have to go back to. But above all else, above all of his accomplishments, even above the music, stands his kindness and his genuine interest in those that he met and loved. He lit up when you came in the room. He was always excited to see you. He was always jazzed about anything you were interested in or working on. He valued hard work, and he was always inspired by others. Everything inspired him, got him excited. And I would think that he would tell us to let yourself be inspired every day, whether it be by people or by a place or by a song or by a piece of art, anything. I think that's how he lived. And just two last things. A few years ago, before COVID even, I was in a real down place and going through the motions and not feeling fulfilled and just feeling lost and sad. And he knew it. And he emailed me. He said, Natalie, you have to nurture what you love. Nurture it. And that whole world, that word changed my world. It changed everything. It made me remember that I'm not teaching just because it's a job. I'm not playing music because it's just what I can do. I'm doing it because I love it. I have loved playing on this piano my whole life. I've loved playing in this house. I've loved playing with Dad on this porch. And nurturing is such a good word. Care for it. It will always give back what you need and more. And lastly, there's a couple more things. I'm getting to the end. Thank you all so much for listening. Up north is heaven on earth. I remember one night he was sharing with me some things that someone in his life, I can't remember who it was, had shared with him. 4 things that you have to worry about, and that's it. Number 1 is your health. Do everything you can to take care of yourself. Be good to yourself. Secondly, your passion or your purpose. It doesn't have to be your job, but what makes you happy and what drives you to be good to yourself and to others. Third, your relationships. Making sure your relationships with the people you know and love are always good and always intact, and keep up with those that you love. Lastly, he said beauty, and I believe beauty encompasses joy and inspiration. So health, purpose, relationships, beauty. His sister, Jules, shared with us today. She called him larger than life. She said she told him that every time she talked to him, and he was. And finally, I just have to read something that I had found on my desk next to my piano, my stickers for my students. I have 1 million of these. And one of the days that he had been living with me, staying with me over the fall, going to radiation, he had jotted down a chord progression and some lyrics. And he had wanted me to get on the piano and help him finish it. So I didn't. And I don't know if he ever got a melody to all of this, but the lyrics are enough. I've had in my days when my heart was full of pain. The sun was gone. All I had was rain. Then a songbird flew into my life and brought soul to rest. I owe to you, darling, because this life has been the best. And it's just one of Dad's many little songs that he would write. And that's all I have. So thank you all so much for being here. It really means a lot to us. Thank you for loving and knowing our dad so very much. Thank you.